Hello and welcome to Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, where I discuss the future of this region, humongously blessed with hydrocarbon resources. Every week, we give time to reflecting on topics relevant to the development of the Niger-Delta and her people. This episode of the program is no different, as we're here once again to focus on how to take the region to a more promising future. The program is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC, SPDC, Total Energies, our chief joint venture, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, headquartered here in Port Harcourt. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Adedayo in Lushakin. The topic for this episode of Canvas is, are children really the future? Once again, welcome to this edition of the show. Incidentally, this edition is commemorating World Children's Day, celebrated 20 November each year, to promote international togetherness, awareness among children worldwide, and improving children's welfare. As we celebrate the joy, potential, rights of children worldwide, we invite you to join us in exploring the pivotal role that young minds play in shaping our tomorrow. From their boundless creativity and resilience to their unique perspectives on the world, children are not just the leaders of tomorrow, but the change makers of today. Throughout this program, we will hear from an expert, educator, who will discuss the challenges children face, the opportunities they seize, and the dreams they hold dear. Throughout this program, we will hear from an expert educator who will discuss the challenges children face, the opportunities they seize, and the dreams they hold dear. Together, let us reflect on how we can nurture and empower the next generation to build a brighter, more inclusive future for all. Do stay tuned as we embark on this enlightenment journey, celebrating the incredible potential of children and reaffirming our commitment to their well-being and development. Again, today the topic on Canvas is, are children really the future? And my guest is Professor Margaret Akpome, is a professor of business education in the Department of Business Education and the current director of the Institute of Education, Rivers State University. She is an alumnus and mentor of the prestigious Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in the United Kingdom. Professor Akpome, good day to you and welcome to Canvas and Niger-Delta Roundtable.
Thank you very much.
And it's good to have you here. I know it's tough to drag, if you will, an academic from the classroom because it's where you're prone to be more often than not imparting knowledge in, incidentally, our future. Thank you for making our time to record this.
Thank you too for having me.
Right.
It's a pleasure.
Now, let's start on this note. The theme of for World Children's Day 2024 is investing in our future means investing in our children. What does that mean, really?
There's always a future. The way the world is created, we have a future. If you have today, you look forward to having tomorrow. And those to drive our tomorrow are the children of today. And so if we invest in our children, then we look forward to having a better future.
Now, so conversely, I will ask the question, or inversely, if we don't invest in our children today, what does that mean for the future? Because there will still be a future. So what does it imply for the future?
It means the future is bleak. And then it means it's going to be horrible for those who will be in the future, who look forward to being in the future. So if we don't prepare today for tomorrow, our tomorrow will be terrible. And then survival for tomorrow, we really cannot afford not to invest in our children if we expect a better future. Because if we don't do that, then yes, there's a future, but then how will the future be? That's the question.
Generally speaking, what does it mean to invest in the future, or maybe more precisely, what does it mean to invest in children? What does that mean, generally speaking? I imagine there are specifics to it, and in the course of the conversation, we will attend to those specifics. But generally speaking, what does investing in children mean?
It means providing them with an enabling environment to grow, quality education, giving them quality education, proper health care, mental, health, well-being, and preparing them. That's, I would say, packaging them so that they'll be able to manage the economy for tomorrow.
If we look at, and I'm sorry, I know that we'll get to some of the other things we
Yes.
prepared for the conversation today, but my mind works in mysterious ways sometimes.
That's okay. Bear your mind.
So, we are in Nigeria.
Sure.
We are in the Niger-Delta. We're recording this in Port Harcourt, specifically in Rivers State. It is the year 2024.
Sure.
Most people, if not everyone, will agree that Nigeria is not in the best of times at the moment. By every indices or parameter you can possibly, consider it through, by every lens you could look at it through. The economy is not great. The social lives of people is not fantastic. But there were children some years back, maybe some decades back, who maybe some kind of investment were made in them. So can we conclude then that proper investments were not made in some children or our children years ago, which might explain why Nigeria is where it is right now? Does that seem logical?
It's I would say no, because the leaders that we have today are those who actually enjoyed Nigeria yesterday. The Nigeria actually invested in them, hoping that the future will be better, today. But unfortunately, it is not. I would not say the children of yesterday were not invested in. They were, because Nigeria has, the resources, and many of them today enjoyed what we call maybe, free education. Some even, yes, good education, because they had opportunities to even send them outside this country on scholarship. They enjoyed all of that. And it's unfortunate that today they are the leaders, and they seem not to be paying back what they have from Nigeria. But it doesn't stop us from, continuing to invest, because the future is definitely there. And we have to look forward, to having a better Nigeria.
Let's talk about children. Let's focus a little more on children now. Even though this entire conversation is intrinsically about children, yes. What unique qualities the children bring to the table that adults might overlook? And I know, and I perceive that besides whatever general perspectives there might be to that, there could be some cultural context as well. Because in the African, or more specifically Nigerian scheme of things, or cultural setup, children don't bring anything to the table. Children are to be overlooked. Children are not to be taken seriously. Children must not form opinions, let alone even express those opinions. They are to be in the background always, not even seen or heard from, except spoken to. And even when they are spoken to, you only reply when a question is posed. And sometimes some questions are rhetorical. If you answer as well, that could mean trouble also. So what inequalities do children bring to the table that adults more often than not overlook?
Yes, children often bring refreshing perspective, marked by creativity. Children are creative by nature. They are curious. They have open minds, and these are what they bring, to the table. Their curiosity, their open-mindedness, their creativity, and sometimes adults seem to overlook that. Adults are usually constrained by maybe past experience. Some of them maybe ingrained beliefs that they have. And so because of that, they may not express, their creativity as much as children. So children are actually curious, and by nature they are empathetic. By nature, they are they are free to express themselves, and then sometimes adults, overlook that. Instead, they seem to overload them with knowledge. They want them to know this, know that, and know that. But children on their own are creative, and if they are allowed to, showcase that, they 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 can approach problems, with out of the box solutions that we just, fix them to. So children actually are open minded and are creative.
What would be the result of that for society? Let's start with for a child or for children who are allowed that opportunity to express themselves, to express their creativity, to express their openness, even to information and different perspectives. What does that do for children who are allowed that, opportunity, if you will, and what effect or impact might that have on the larger society?
Well, if children are allowed to, express, themselves, then it's easier to guide them along the right path. Because if you stop them from expressing themselves, they may not be able to reach their potentials. Or by, giving them that opportunity to, bear their minds, to express themselves, to be creative, then it gives the adults a leeway to be able to guide them so that they can, reach their potential. Sometimes even unleash those potentials that, they have in them. So it's the impact it will have is that the society, yes, will be better for it, because if these children are properly guided to reach their potentials, then the society is better for it. So I don't think children should be stopped, even though, a traditional way of life, the way you said it before, that children, they shouldn't even be heard, they should be seen and all of that. But I think that's in the past.
No, but don't adults know better? Don't adults know more? And by the way, allowing these children to be expressive and all these fancy things that new age thinkers, if I may use that expression, are saying these days. Wouldn't that lead to all kinds of negative consequences? For example, children talking back at
No,
adults and
that's why I
all of
said,
that.
yeah, that's why I said,
How can we allow things like that to
no,
happen?
that's why I said they have to be guided.
Yeah.
That's why I said they have to be guided. Of course, if they don't express themselves, you won't even know which direction, to push them to. So they need the guidance of the adults to be able to do that. That they express themselves doesn't mean you just leave them like that and then they do their own thing. No, that's why we have, the parents, we have the teachers, we have the mentors to guide them in the right direction.
For my next question, I'm particularly glad that you yourself are an educator, an academic. You've been so for decades, I imagine. You've had all kinds of experiences, probably seen it all, been there, done that, got several t-shirts. How can we better support children's education to prepare them for future challenges?
Yeah, thank you. It is essential, that we adopt a model that emphasizes critical thinking for children, to be able to explore their intelligence and then provide them with practical skills. We know that Nigeria has gone through series of models or styles of education. We started with, say, the eight, when we used to have primary school. We had, I think, the standard, and then we had infant one, infant two. Then we have standards 1 to 6. That's 8 years in primary school. Then we moved on to having 6 years in primary school. And then now we have what we call basic education, where you have 9 years, call it 9 years basic education. Yes, we have moved from, one level to the other, but we still, we have not been able to provide that educational model that will afford our children the opportunity to critically, think, and then enable them to, to be practical. We're still lacking in that aspect of education for our children, and that is what, um, for me, I think it's the way we should go.
Mm.
Yes.
Let's point out a few things from there. I'd like you to elaborate on the concept of a model, an educational model. I've read, in some different places that you have in some other parts of the world or some countries, when they set up these models or they design them, there's something specifically that they want to achieve, that they want to accomplish. And when you talk about also allowing children to express themselves, also express their creativity, I mean, one of the really frustrating aspects of university for me was a lot of my lecturers at the time just wanted you to regurgitate what they had given you in class. Just as I gave it to you, assimilate or cram it, don't even assimilate, cram it, and then pour it back. By the time you start explaining this or interpreting what you are not going to score good grades. So that was really frustrating for me in university. So I like to touch on that, allowing children to express themselves as, maybe a better form of education, and also elaborate on the model you were referring to a while ago.
Um, like I said, the model is the one that should provide the children with ability to think, to think, not just like you said now, just I give it to you, just a body of knowledge, and then you regurgitate. No, it's ability to give them. That's why we have these days. In fact, we have like the artificial intelligence that is on now. You see, children are able to even go online, and even we have the disadvantages of that, but they're able to go online, and they're able to get what they actually that will help them in their education. A model that provides for practical. In our schools now, like those who study education, what we do now is we have this model that provides for activities for the children, we give them hands-on experience. That's the kind of education, so that they will. You want to teach a child, for example, programming. The child has never seen a computer, and all those. So if you're able to provide the necessary equipment, I will call it an enabling environment for them to be able to think critically, and then we can get some innovations out of them if you get that kind of model that specifically allows for practicals and make sure that they are able to think critically.
What are some of the biggest challenges faced by children today? Children in Nigeria, children in the Niger-Delta. What are some of the biggest challenges confronting them, and how can we address them?
Well, I will say that for challenges, the biggest challenge that I see in the Niger Delta, or even in Nigeria as a whole, has to do with quality education. Quality education is a challenge. Even the issue of mental health is also, a challenge. I spoke now of artificial intelligence. The online safety is also a concern, to us, those in education, because these are the challenges that the children face. And of course, to address them, we need quality education. That's why that is access. Children should be given access to quality education. If you go, around our streets now, you see children who are supposed to be in school. They are outside there, hawking or doing what, they shouldn't be doing instead of being in school. And so one way to address that is to provide, quality education and then make it accessible and affordable to all children. That's one challenge. And in the area of online, safety, children should be guided. Now we have all sorts that children are exposed to online. But if we're able to, enact maybe some policies that will guide the use of even at the use of artificial intelligence, we should be able to come up with some stringent measures of guiding these children so that they don't go astray or just get whatever they want from the internet.
What does the quality education or access to it pose such a big challenge for you, for children in the Niger Delta? Big, and I asked that on the following basis. I mean, yes, we do see those images. They live with us every day. Children out there on the streets doing God knows what, really. But even then, we still have many other families, lots of other children in school. Even as we speak right now, we're recording this on a weekday, this episode in the morning. We have lots of parents and guardians who are doing the best that they can, even though under humongous economic hardships, to send their children to school. Many of them in private schools, they are there. So why is that number who are out there on the streets or wherever else they are? Why is that a big challenge for us?
Because there are more. There are more. The education you are talking about, putting children in private schools, is only a few, just a few. And then even if you go to our public schools today, what do they have to offer? The majority of the children, attend public schools. It's only the very few rich who can afford to send their children to private schools. So if education is made affordable and accessible to all, not just the few, maybe few lucky ones, or a few ones who are able to get, means of sending their children to these expensive schools. Our schools are not quality enough. They are not providing what, will make this nation, what will make even the Niger Delta, what will make it great to reach the potential that God has given us, as a nation or even as a region. So there's need, I feel, bad that our children are not getting the kind of education that they should get.
We are in a technological age. The world is advancing in leaps and bounds, even at levels that surprise even some notable names in the field of technology as well, science and tech. So if that's the direction in which the world is going, and if we are to at least play catch-up successfully, we must be players in that field also. So why then should we be concerned about the access that our children have to the internet or other online features?
The problem is not having access. The problem is not having access. Yes, some of us, some children are able to, they have the means to go online. But the question is it the generality of the children populace? It's only just a few. And even the few now that have the opportunity to get these online, whatever they want to get online, are they guided? That's the question. So the problem is not giving them access online. The problem is guiding them to get what is useful to them. not just going online to get just whatever they want to get.
You
So that's
use
the problem.
you used the expression mental health earlier when you first talked about this. What is the connection between their mental health and access to the resources online?
Well, when you talk of mental health, you are looking at the ability to reason, to reason positively. And if we have children who are not able to reason, correctly, you find out that they what they are thinking of is probably things that are maybe inimical to the growth of the economy. That's what they will be thinking about. But if their mental health is put on track how it should be, then they will have this. I talked about critical thinking earlier on. Then they'll be able to think right, think positive, and then be able to generate ideas that will help the education system or help the nation to move forward.
You described a while ago how that educational system isn't where it should be at the moment. The quality is a challenge, access is a challenge, even how we construct it, whether or not we have a model or a working model can be called to question also. And not allowing children to be expressive, express their creativity. I also touched on a couple of those things earlier on. Do our cultural differences or our cultural state or condition or our culture generally, does it impact the way we view and treat children in our society? Is that responsible for, would you say it's responsible for even the quality of education, for example, that they or may not have access to?
When you talk of culture, yes, the way we, the cultural differences that we have can have, an impact. The way we treat our children, for example, different cultures, they have different parenting styles. The way we bring up our children, even the expectations, from our children, the educational approaches that we have, they all impact in our children. In some culture, children are given significant responsibilities. Even at a young age, you find that they take up the responsibility of probably catering, for the family at a young age. This can help, make such children, they make them adults when they are not supposed to be adults. And these are, some cultural problems that we have. And then, parenting style. We have some parents who feel that maybe the male child should be focused on, and then the female child should probably end up maybe in the other room, in quotes, or maybe in the kitchen and all of that. These are some cultures or traditional ways that impact negatively on, our children.
It is Canvas and Niger-Delta Roundtable brought to you by SPDC. My guest is Professor Margaret Akpome, and in commemoration of World Children's Day, we're discussing, are children really the future? We'll go for a break now. We will return in a moment. Conversation continues. Do please stay with us.
Yellow and black markers indicate pipeline and flow line right-of-way boundaries. Your activity could impact on the buried high-pressure hydrocarbon pipelines and flow lines, leading to possible leaks and explosion. Please keep off. Do not engage in sand mining or any form of excavation, pipeline vandalism, oil theft, and bush burning within pipeline and flow line right-of-way. Do not farm, trade, or locate any business on pipeline and flow line right-of-way. It is against the law to apportion land, sell, or build on pipeline and flow line right of way. Maintain a setback distance of at least 30 meters or about 100 feet from the right of way boundaries always. We care for your safety and that of the environment.
This message is brought to you by the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, SPDC, operator of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, Total Energies, and Ajib Joint Venture.
Welcome back. Still Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. My guest is an academic and educationist, expert in the field, of course, Professor Margaret Akpome. You're welcome again, Prof.
Thank you.
What role do parents and educators play in nurturing the potentials of children? Now, it might seem clear enough, it might seem obvious enough, but I'm also aware it's a debate that's gone on for a long time as well. What roles are there? Are there interwoven roles? Are there lines? Are there clear lines that are drawn where the roles of parents are clearly defined and where it ends, and where the educator takes it over from and continues as well, and possibly where that ends also? If there are, what are they?
Parents, yes, and educators are crucial in the upbringing of children. Parents lay the foundation. Every child learns. We're told that the first teacher of a child is the parents. They learn from the parents. And teachers are supposed to build on what the parents have already infused into these children. We instill into our children values that when they are born as parents, we instill into them values, we discipline them, social skills, and all of that. And when these children are of school age, they go into the school, and it's expected that the educators will now begin to introduce academic knowledge, building on what the parents have started, providing the educators are now the ones to open up ways for, interpersonal skills among the children, and even building them up to reach their potentials. So both parents and teachers are expected to provide the curiosity that children need in order to grow in the society.
The parents the parents and educators, in your estimation, especially in this day and age currently, and even not so far back, do they understand these roles? Because, like I said, do you think they clearly understand them? As I said a while ago, I suspect and I suppose there's been an ongoing debate as to who is supposed to do what. I mean, it's not unlikely that you hear conversations such as a parent complaining, oh, my child was doing this the other day at home. What is wrong? I know how much I pay in this school. I know how much I pay in this school. People think it's easy. Why is my child acting like this? You people are not doing your job. So it is.
No, but that parent that is complaining, also forgot that he or she did not do her own job. Because, yes, children, by the time they get to school age, when they begin to interact with other children, they could pick up some negative, aspects of life. But it's not supposed to be left for the school. The upbringing of children is not supposed to be left for the school alone. It's supposed to be, both complementing, each other, the parents and then the educators. Like I said, the first, whatever lesson a child learns, it begins from the home. And so if the home has not properly instilled into the children the right attitudes, the right skills in life, by the time the child gets to the school, the parents will not expect the school to just provide magic. What the school does is, providing knowledge, like the body of knowledge. You go to school, you learn this subject and you learn that subject, and then the teacher provides that. But the parent is supposed to have laid sort of a background on which the teacher is based on.
You may have answered the question I'm about to ask you, but in terms of roles, who has the bigger responsibility, parents or educators, in determining the outcomes of a child?
The parents. The parents. Yes. The parents, because if the foundation is not properly laid, it's just like, a building. If the foundation is not properly laid, then there's bound to be, an imminent collapse.
I suspect that you've had ongoing conversations, experienced yourself as well, the concerns about a generation referred to as Gen Z.
Gen Z, yes.
I mean, personally, I have a hard time even engaging them myself. and it seems to be a general thing. I don't like generalizations.
Yes.
Personally. But it seems making generalizations about the Gen Z is not entirely out of place. So, did their parents get something wrong?
Like, I know somebody, we were discussing sometime, and somebody said the generation of parents born from, what did they say, from the 60s, up to like 60s, up to maybe 90s, that those ones, well, they missed it a bit, because that's when we probably started having, problems in Nigeria. Remember, in those days, they said there was Udoji, and then, people had it good, and then, this idea of both parents struggling, working, the both parents, they leave house in the morning, leave children in the hands of maybe house helps and all of that. You don't know what the house helps. Of course, they cannot take the place of parents. And so if the parents do not instill into the children at young age, in psychology, a child, of 3, at the age of 3, a child is supposed to have been able to, get, some skills that will help, not really skills, some attitudes that the parents would have built into that child that will enable the child, to propel or grow in the future. But if the parents do not do that, and then you find these children exposed to all kinds of, we're talking about internet now, they expose them to all kinds, they are not guided, and at the end, they come out. And then that's how we have the generation of the Gen Zs. Because we find out that the parents, they were not there for them when they were growing up. And then they now leave the responsibility of the parents, they leave it to the educators or the teachers who would not, who are even struggling. Now, we find a lot of them. As a university lecturer, we know what to go through, struggling to correct some of the ills which the parents would have probably corrected as the children were growing up. I remember in those days, Franco Lise, Newsline, he would say, it's 9 p.m., parents, where are your children? That's what he starts with, to ask. But, parents, yes, in fact, many parents of this generation, of our generation, we lost it.
So the concerns about the Gen Z is not misplaced, it's actually real.
It's real, yeah.
Even though I think we've opened up a can of worms right now. Another debate is probably from the statement now. Technology. You express concern about exposure a while ago, but it is key. We are in a technological age after all. AI is here; it's here to stay. It's only going to get bigger. and have even more of an impact on how we live our lives
Yes.
going forward,
Positive and negative.
as advancements are being made on a literally on a daily basis at levels maybe even never before seen or experienced. And that said, how can technology be used to enhance children's learning and development?
Technology, yes, like you said, it has come to stay, and we know the advantages that technology has brought to us. We can leverage on the fact that we can take the better part of technology and leave the side that is inimical to the growth of our society. Technology can enhance learning, yes, if we make it interactive, if we personalize it, make it, personalized, and if we make it, accessible to, to our generation or to our children. There are educational apps and there are e-learning platforms that they are everywhere. They offer resources, that can cater for different learning styles, allowing our children to actually learn at their own pace. So we can take the better part of technology and leverage on that and help, our children to, develop their learning.
What are the pitfalls that parents or guardians should avoid as far as exposure or access to technology? Most prominent, I suppose, is the internet anyway. That's where everything seems to be happening these days. What are the common pitfalls that they should avoid?
Like I said, it's when you say pitfall, we know that exposure to all different kinds of activities that go on online is not usually healthy for our children. So they should be guided. That is, we have apps these days where you have your children, restrict them to what they can, what they can have access to. I know that at a certain age, even the children, they know these things more than us. You can lock your phone now and you drop it. Before you know it, a child comes and, it's opened. And you wonder how. But it doesn't stop us from, guiding them. It doesn't stop us from providing that mentorship for them to be able to assess only what they are supposed to assess. The problem we have is that, yes, for those who can afford it, they give the children the access and then they just leave them to,
Their own devices.
Yes, they just leave them. But if we are able to provide that guidance, then the children will only get what they should get.
But even when parents provide some kind of act as gatekeepers, so to speak. But the children are still going to go out. They're going to meet other children who don't have the safety measures in place that one may have, put in place for one's children. And they're going to, there's always access. The deluge of information is incredible. So even if you have gates at home,
your own, and the children
out there in school, when they meet with other children elsewhere, the playgrounds or other places, they could still have access nonetheless.
Yeah, that's why all hands should be on deck. All that parents, all parents. If as a parent, I play my role, guide my child properly. You as a parent, you do the same thing, and every parent does the same. We'll find out that at the end of the day, we'll be having uniformity in the way our children go about these things. But the problem we have now is that only a few people are able to do that. And negative influence is very powerful. By the time the child goes out, you have put your child on the right track, and then the child meets with some negativity outside, and then the child is easily influenced. So it boils down to, parents generally doing what they are supposed to do.
We may not have always got it right, or even got it right in many instances, or maybe even at all, some might argue, as far as policies and initiatives are concerned, to ensure that we're properly and adequately investing in our children today, which ultimately implies also investing in our future. But there are other parts of the world that may have
Yes.
done a much better job than we have. So, what policies or initiatives have been successful in improving children's lives in some other parts of the world that you may be aware of?
Well, I'm aware of UNICEF. UNICEF as as a body. I know they have some child-friendly cities initiative where they create safe environment and inclusive environment for children to who need particularly children who need some form of assistance or guidance. UNICEF has priority, for children. Of course, it's children's, friendly, and they have some of, these initiatives that have really helped, even here in Nigeria. They have. We also have Finland. I know that Finland has an education policy that actually emphasizes on play-based learning. The children go to school and then what they learn, just simulation. It's practical, and they have high teacher quality. I know in Finland they do that, and this has really helped, in setting a global benchmark, for them in terms of child-focused education. In the UK too, we have what they call Every Child Matters. And they've been using this, to address comprehensively the well-being of children. They focus on the health of children, because we know in such environments that children are placed on top priority. We place children first, even I think children before animals, before they even come to adults and all of that. So they have this that initiative that has helped children, and it has helped them to achieve economic stability. It's also helping them to create holistic environment where children thrive. These are a few initiatives that have improved children's lives globally.
Now, coming to Nigeria,
Yes.
or the Niger-Delta, and by
Okay.
extension, Nigeria, how can we ensure that every child, not leaving one out, how can we ensure every child has the opportunity, has all that it takes to reach their full potentials?
We have been talking about it. It's to provide, first of all, equitable access to quality education. We have to look at our education sector, bring it up, to quality, to standard. We look at our needs as a society. What is our need? And then tailor our education system to be able to satisfy that need. The moment we're able to have, quality education and let our children, like you said, every child have access to that education, then I think we'll be moving forward. Also, healthcare. Healthcare is also one way we can ensure that our children reach their full potential. If we provide, adequate healthcare, because we know that in recent times we have this immunization program that has, the helped at least. We know that polio has sort of been eradicated. I think from statistics that has been done. So if we can provide healthcare for our children, that will also help us. And then, provide supportive role for families and our communities. That would also help us, to our children to reach their full potentials. Yeah, and I also know that when you talk of school feeding, I think in recent times, there was also this feeding of school children in school, so that when they get to school, they provide them some nutritious meals that can help them, at least, sustain them while they are in school. These are also, can also help. Community involvement, involve the community in the upbringing of children. Of course, our society is that type. We have a communal style of living where, every child is every parent's child, where we care for that. It's just that in recent times we are trying to imbibe the foreign culture where every man is for himself and God for us all, which will not really, help us as a society.
Thank you, Prof. We have come to the end of this episode of Canvas. However, just before we wrap it up finally, this episode is commemorating World Children's Day. So if you could just say, I don't know, a word or two to the children out there, Niger-Delta children, Nigerian children who are watching this, and parents and guardians as well. 1 or 2 lines.
Okay. Thank you, Dayo. For the children, I will say all hope is not lost. Children should not lose hope, because I believe that the future, will be better for it. If we are able to put some of the suggestions that have been made, if we can put them right, then children should have hope. And children should also remember that they are the future, and they should allow themselves to be mentored and guided. If they do that, then we can, have at least a good society for tomorrow. Then for parents are the first set of educators for their children, and they should not leave that role to any other person. Parents should take up the responsibility, to guide their children properly and provide for their children.
And that's a wrap on this edition of Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, brought to you by SPDC. This episode is commemorating World Children's Day. And thus the conversation on the topic, are children really the future? And the conversation with my guest, the answer is a consensus, yes. Professor Margaret Opomi, many thanks for your time. It's been great having this conversation with you.
Thank you, Dayo. It's good to having me.
I'm Adedayo Lushakin. Remember, the theme of this year's World Children's Day is investing in our future, means investing in our children. And we almost do that. Parents, guardians, policymakers as well. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and catch other episodes of this podcast on our social media platforms. Bye for now.